but he said the mic is live. Bitcoin's Uptober is underway. Ethereum futures go live. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. My name is David. I'll be one of your co-hosts, and today, like every single weekday, we're coming at you live from our studio in the heart of It's Getting Real Cold, Las Vegas, Nevada. On today's show, we're discussing what I just mentioned. On top of big Chainlink news, we're going to give you some macro insight. Jerome Powell spoke. What do the markets do? What will the markets do? Also, what is going on in the world of crypto, conferences, AMAs, all that? We have all that for you. Also, big token unlocks, so you can prepare for your week when it comes to trading and investing. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce you to my bestie. It's Forrest. Forrest, did we just become best friends?
I think so.
Just force it.
I love how Forrest is always just like even, bro. Just all the way even. Forrest, man, how you doing? How was your weekend, brother? Again, thank you so much for stepping in, helping out. Rob is still gone this week. He might, as I've been talking to him throughout the weekend, sounds like he might make a guest appearance in the studio, but I can't promise anything. But as of right now, we're not going to have him this week. But we got you, Forrest, today. We're excited to have you. How was your weekend? I know I asked you the question and then started rambling, so my apologies.
Yeah, weekend was great. It was the wife and I's anniversary on Friday, so went out and got dinner, and overall, just a solid weekend.
Happy anniversary, man!
Weekend was pumping. The altcoin market pumped a little bit. We saw Solana run. Can't complain when Solana's running 13% in a day.
That was good.
You know, how many years has your wife been putting up with you? Mine, 12 years.
5 years now.
Solid, man. Solid.
I'm laughing.
I know.
Because David one is like dog years. No? Every 5 is actually 10.
So it's like, did you have like plans to go to dinner somewhere nice and then you saw the pump and then you changed the reservation to somewhere nicer?
No, fortunately for me, the pump didn't happen until Sunday, and the anniversary was on Friday. So, as of Friday, I was still a Solana poor, and now after the pump,
that's funny.
A little better off.
Awesome, man. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's get this thing going. But first, a couple thank yous. First thank you is to Cam's Blue Wire Technology. They are our longest tenure sponsor on the channel. We love Cam's. We appreciate them. And so if you want your business to run smoothly when it comes to the networking, IT, and of course, cybersecurity, we know how important that is. There is one company that's going to guide you and help you, and that is Cam's Blue Wire Tech. So visit bluewiretech.com. Also, big shout out to Radix, the top layer 1 DeFi in our space. Radically better DeFi. That is their slogan. Big shout out to their team for a successful Babylon upgrade. A lot of exciting things happening in that ecosystem. If you want to learn about those exciting things, click the link in the description of this video or visit radixdlt.com. Now, every show we got to start off with some funny stuff. I had a really hard time finding funny stuff today. I don't know why. There wasn't a lot. I found this. This is a gem, though.
Okay.
Now, guys, I don't want you to make this political. I just want you to laugh at the comedy here, okay? Rocco?
Okay, let's see.
I want to feel like it's raining on me, okay?
It was a part where he smacks it like there. Right?
Is that Zelensky in the vote?
That's Zelensky and Biden, yeah. Then we have this, no other comment. So this just says wrong turn. Well, what does he mean by that? Oh, it's a sauna. All right. By the way, who gets in the sauna butt naked? I don't. I got swim shorts on. Oh, where is he? He's in the kitchen. Oh, and there's Gordon Ramsay.
That's a funny one.
Honestly, that is probably... Look, I've met Gordon Ramsay. I've served him a few times. He's an amazing person. This, honestly, probably would be his reaction. Although the other potential reaction would be he might just bust out laughing. But he would definitely do the sausage cut with the meat cleaver there. So... guys, just be careful where you're walking into, okay? Speaking of cutting things, this was located on a UK train. We plan to cut all homeless people in half by 2025. Guys, verbiage and comma and spacing matter, okay? Just keep that in mind. And then Forrest, I did say, we just became besties, but I don't know much about like what you like to eat or do. So I found this, and I want to know your vote here, okay? I need you to pick a letter, a number, and then another letter for candy. So as far as the chips, which one are you going with here? You go.
We're probably going. The one thing that I can stay away from, like, I could care less about potato chips. So I'll go Doritos. We'll go B. We'll go Cool Ranch Doritos. They're fine, but chips just never.
I like chips.
It's not my vice.
What do you think I would pick, Forrest? Let's see how good you know me.
I think you would pick the. I think you'd go with G.
Yeah.
Nah.
No.
Barbecue, bro. Come on, guys.
What is it? Which one is
barbecue? A.
Oh, it's barbecue.
Guys, this isn't a joke to me. Barbecue is my life.
Okay.
You know how many barbecue sauces I have at home? So I go with barbecue sauce. Forced to go with G guy, or forced to go with Cool Ranch. I want you guys to play along in the chat here as well. Which chip is your favorite? We got Biomex in studio. What are you picking? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. C. Okay, Biomex is Cheeto. Got Flaming Hot. Are those Flaming Hot Cheetos? Those are those are Cheeto Puffs. Cheeto Puffs. G. Okay, G. So the Nacho Doritos. Now, what about the soda, Forrest? Or you have a water option as well.
Yeah, I'm going water here. I don't drink actual sugary sodas. I like Coke Zero, but man, those like the sodas with sugar in it just make your teeth feel like they're dissolving, and
I love it.
It's just like it's sticky. Yeah,
Forrest,
I go Coke Zero all day long if that wasn't an option, but we'll go with water.
I'm maybe giving out a little too much information about my personal life here, but I have a lot of fake teeth in my mouth because I had a lot of root canals when I was younger, and so I don't get that feeling. So I love soda. So I'm going 3, classic Coca-Cola. And then as far as candy bars, this is the important one here for me. What candy bar are you going? You got Snickers, Almond Joy.
I'm going Snickers. I think that's just a classic option. Skittles are fine, but same thing, make your teeth feel nasty. But Snickers, if you're hungry, nothing quite hits like a Snickers bar.
I think I'm going Almond Joy, man.
I can respect that.
I like
That's
Almond
a good
Joy.
Option.
I can't eat the.
What'd you go with for soda?
What's up?
What'd you go with for soda?
3, classic Coca-Cola.
Classic. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm a classic man. Either
Coke that's a good healthy meal right there.
Yeah, some barbecue chips, Coca-Cola, and some Almond Joy. To finish it off. It's a nice 3-course meal.
I don't want to be next.
Rocco, what about you? There's no Italian brands here, so I'm curious.
Classic chips, I guess, is probably F. I guess.
So he's going Lay's classic. Okay.
Dr. Pepper, number 5.
Okay.
And number 6, Kit Kat.
Kit Kat. Ooh, I love Kit Kats too. Kit Kats are fire.
That's probably my.
If Twix was on here, I'd go Twix. But hey.
Yeah.
Pet Brett said B6G. So Doritos, Cool Ranch, Pepsi. And he said G is Kit Kat. Okay. So blue, red, Kit Kat. All right. Moving on. Man. So so
excuse me. I thought there was some meaning to that. There was something.
No, there was not. We're just trying to get to know each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I told you.
Not everything has to have an in-depth meaning, Rob.
I thought it was
Sometimes I just want to get to know my best friend, all right? Leave me alone.
Okay.
Anyways, we do have this. Speaking of best friend, apparently Sam Bankman-Fried is best friends with all of mainstream media because they continue to, sounds like they continue to give him excuses, right? Instead of saying you're a piece of crap, fraudster, they're like, well, it might have been this. So this little snippet here. So he's got a documentary coming out, 60-minute documentary. And so just listen to what this reporter, Michael Lewis, right? And just listen, that literally not what was happening.
Where was he going with that? Because like maybe he's saying like it's worse than a Ponzi scheme.
He doesn't
Ponzi scheme like he okay
he doesn't. Listen,
I'd say it's worse than a Ponzi scheme because he wasn't even giving it back out to investors. He was just straight up stealing it and spending it elsewhere. So I could see the argument where it's not a Ponzi scheme, it's worse than a Ponzi scheme, it's straight up fraud. But let's see where he goes with it.
Yeah, I understand you want more context. I don't think you're gonna get the context you want to hear though. Here we go. The biggest fraud in American history, not just crypto, American history. You watched it too? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
You know what?
It was
I
very
agree.
infuriating.
They had a great business model if they didn't steal the customer funds. Their revenues were very high. They had a lot of trade volume. They had no reason to commit fraud. They could, have grown into one of the largest exchanges. They were one of the largest exchanges. It is a great business model. What's not great is when you decide to ruin that business model by stealing your customer funds, gambling with them, going and using them for investment, donating them to politicians. I also heard a clip where, and I don't know if you have this clip, but I heard a clip where they apparently he was Sam Bankman-Fried was trying to pay Donald Trump $5 billion to not run for president in 2024, which is that's about all the money they had at one point. Or that's about the size of the hole, if I'm not mistaken, that they lost. Like, what was the plan, to just steal $5 billion from investors and give it to Donald Trump?
I got it right here.
Run?
I got it right here, Forrest. I got it right here. Let's just listen to so people can hear how absurd this. That's absurd, dude. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, it tells you what you need to know. One of the nastiest, worst people in the finance industry wants to pay a candidate not to run. That is wild.
Yeah, and I like the that threw in there. He wanted to make sure it was legal, right? Sure, okay. I will be watching that whole 60 Minutes documentary just for my amusement.
It's painful. I'm gonna tell you right now. It's very
you watched the whole thing?
I can't. I didn't have this.
But it's out. The whole thing is out.
Yes.
Okay, obviously, because they have the clips up. Okay, all right. Where did you watch it, by the way? Can you watch it on YouTube?
It was no, it wasn't TV in the
TV
cable. No cable. It was a.
I might have to just reconnect my cable that I haven't had for 4 years.
No, it was over antenna. You just need the antenna. You need the cable.
Just the antenna. All right. I see Chef Murder's in here. I wonder who that is. Hi, Chef Murder. Also, Andrea. Andrea's been helping us with some of our deeper dive research. So pretty good stuff. So big shout out there. Also, big shout out to Jimmy. We missed you last week, Jimmy. I think I saw you in the chat just a few times. Also, guys, if you're new here, make sure to say hello. I would love to personally say hello to you and maybe digitally wrap my arms around you and say hi. Biomex, as I mentioned, is in studio. Crypto Surfer, Rudy Lane. He was going to his book, right? Juan Luis Almonte, Dixie Flatline. I believe Dixie's the one we met.
Of course.
Dixie was the one. Okay. All right. Yeah, so we met a bunch of our crew members. We met Leroy yesterday on day 3 at the convention.
What Zach?
We met Biomex. We met, obviously, Billy was there.
Crank C, they won the ticket.
Crunk C was there. Zach was there. Who else was there? There was one. I feel like I'm missing one more person. Crypto security guy. Wait, who? Oh, yeah. Man, that was cool. It was great to see. And it was interesting to see Charles be there for the entirety of the convention. I remember last year, every convention I've seen him at, he's there for maybe a day and then he's out. He was there all 3 days. He went by all the booths. And so big shout out to Charles and to the Cardano community. That was pretty cool. Even though the attendance was lower, there was still a lot of solid projects that were there at the depths of a NFT bear market. So it was pretty impressive. Also, big shout out to Biomex. Someone may start a GoFundMe to find out Trump deferral plan. All right, Forrest, I want to go over this with you. What are your thoughts on this? And then we'll get into some macro stuff, and then we'll get into the markets. So this is from Stack Hodler on Twitter or X. We're witnessing the birth of Bitcoin as the new flight to safety. Excuse me. The global sovereign debt bubble is popping, and U.S. Treasuries are no longer the go-to flight to safety. The market is beginning to value the fact that Bitcoin protects you from debasement and counterparty risk. We saw it in the banking crisis earlier this year as investors fled failing banks and turned their uninsured fiat deposits into bearer Bitcoin. Now, global bonds are nuking and Bitcoin is once again pumping as most other assets sell off. Performance in the last month: Bitcoin up 10%, US Treasuries down 7.8%, gold down 5.7%, and the SPY down 5%. And here is a visual representation of what this tweet went over. So, Forrest, are you buying into this? Are you seeing a narrative shift? What are your thoughts here? It is intriguing. We're seeing what's happening in Japan. The Bank of Japan is literally printing yen to buy back their own debt. So we know the US has said they're going to start doing that. People are just starting to, seems like, move away from so-called safety, what used to be US government bonds, treasuries, and they're seeing that now as a counterparty risk, and they don't want to put all their money there. And hey, where else can we go? Are you buying into the fact that now that money may start flowing a little bit into Bitcoin?
A little bit, but to be quite honest, I think this is the perspective of somebody who, like us, lives in crypto, and we pay attention to crypto's every little move, and we see Bitcoin pumping and doing well, and it could be for a number of reasons. But ultimately, if Bitcoin is accepted widespread globally as the flight to safety asset, we would see Bitcoin at a much, much higher valuation. I mean, you talk about, the US Treasury market and the trillions and trillions of dollars that are there. You see Bitcoin, take the place of US Treasury dollars or US Treasuries or gold as the flight to safety asset. It should be trading at a much higher valuation or a much higher market cap than the 500 or 600 billion that it's at right now. I'll get the right number on that. So I'm not, it's 550 billion that it's at right now. So maybe, if we see a recession next year, and we see, or in 2025, and we see Bitcoin that overlap with a Bitcoin halving cycle, and you see Bitcoin perform really, really well in line with its halving cycle, and the rest of the market, rest of the economy really struggle with both inflation and a large pullback in the economy, and we see recession. You could then see a really strong narrative where if Bitcoin's crushing everything else because of the halving and because of the reduction in supply, then maybe we could actually see that narrative, and you could get a big cycle for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could establish itself as a flight to safety asset. But right now, I just don't see any countries looking to, major countries. I know there's El Salvador and there's some smaller countries, but I just don't necessarily see it as a widespread accepted flight to safety asset quite yet. Not saying we won't see it, not saying we can't see it. I just think if we were already seeing it, we'd be at a higher valuation than 550 billion.
But why though? And I'm not arguing with you. I'm speaking out loud here. But why, right? If you're not going to buy other countries' debt, is it safe to say that it's easier and more practical to hit the like button, but also more easier and practical to, instead of, well, what is the other one, right? Where you're hedging against counterparty risk, governments printing monetary debasement or currency debasement. It's for centuries, it's been gold, but it's not practical to go out and buy 7,000 tons of gold and store it somewhere. And you know what I'm saying? And so when you have an asset like Bitcoin that allows you to move value quickly in a decentralized way, has no counterparty risk, unless you want to consider miners counterparty risk, but they have an incentive to keep the network up and running and efficient and not mess around with it, right? They have an incentive there. Why not? Why not Bitcoin, right? We're obviously seeing, and Pep Brett brought up a really good point here, and I'll throw this one in there as well for us. He said, if people stop buying bonds, then the government might have to start restricting spending. What do you say to that? And what do you say to what I said?
That's a real problem because we know that the government does not want to restrict spending, and usually what they do is they just start printing more money. But if people won't buy the bonds, then yeah, it's a real problem, and you get an inflationary spiral or just deep terrible recession where they do have to stop spending and pump the brakes quite a bit. This is the conundrum that we're facing, and the government's going to try to kick the can down the road. Usually, what happens is you see a war started, and this is not a prediction or anything like that, but historically, if things start getting tough for the U.S. economy, usually we go and liberate another country, take their natural resources, and keep moving the can down the road. It's probably not going to be pretty. Whatever. It's hard to sit and say exactly. There's so many variables. It's hard to sit and say exactly what's going to happen next. But yeah, I mean, you want to be paying attention to hard assets. Even like I'm even we go into an inflationary spiral, I don't think people should count out things like gold and silver. I'm more inclined to crypto. I do think diversification is a strong strategy, but you should be paying attention to any type of hard asset, even real estate, right? You should be, which is in a bit of a bubble right now, but you should be paying attention to anything that is tangibly scarce, like Bitcoin, you can make arguments about gold and the gold supply, but also real estate. I'd be paying very, very close attention to hard assets in the next several years, because it's probably going to get ugly.
I think that's some great advice, Forrest. And I did want to also, we did meet Alex Green as well. So Alex actually came by the studio, super cool guy from the UK. So I met a lot of cool people at the convention. And then I forgot what the hell I was going to say. All right. It'll probably come to me at some random point, which I'll probably have to interrupt you for. So apologies in advance. But I do want to show this. So every Monday, this is what we do for you. We tell you what to look out for in the traditional world, right? Macro. And so for this week, a couple big things happening. First and foremost, tomorrow, the JOLTS jobs opening report, the job opening and labor turnover. Oh, yeah, and Redman. Damn it. Sorry, Redman. Redman, you're my boy, Redman. ISM services PMI, not sure what the hell that is. Non-farm payrolls, that's a big one. And of course, unemployment rate. All those numbers are coming out this week. Any particular one for us that you're really paying attention to, or do you think these are all just a non-factor, or do you have any insight as to how crypto's been behaving when these numbers come out, whether it's negative or positive?
Hey, yeah, sorry, your screen's super blurry on my phone. Yeah, unemployment rate, non-farm payrolls, October 6th. Those are I had to look on my phone because the transmission here it's a little blurry for me. But Friday, non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate. Mainly because you see such a strong correlation between the unemployment rate and pullbacks in the S&P 500 and essentially recession. So there we go. That's actually clear, whatever Rocco did.
Cool.
So the unemployment rate, and this is, you can just pull up a chart, and we can pull up a chart later if we want. When you see the unemployment rate start to tick up, that's usually when you start to see the S&P 500 tipping over. You really don't want to see increases in unemployment. We talked about this earlier on my stream, and the reason being is because the S&P 500 is largely backed by the structural flows of people's paychecks, right? Because a portion of people's paychecks go directly to their financial advisors or the asset managers, which then goes directly into the S&P 500, a mixture of stocks and bonds, usually some form of a 60-40 portfolio. But a large portion of people's paychecks, especially young people's paychecks, go directly into stocks, right? Into the stock market. So when you see unemployment start to tick up, that means people aren't getting a paycheck. And if people aren't getting a paycheck, they're investing less and less. A lot of that investing, some people, we've seen the crunch in expendable income in terms of people are taking out credit card debt. They don't have a lot left over extra at the end of every month, but as long as they still have a job, there's a really strong chance that they still have their 401k match, or they still have some sort of automated investment going into S&P 500. Once they lose their job, though, that starts to dry up. Or once a lot of people lose their jobs, we start to see unemployment spike. That starts to dry up, and you start putting a dent in those structural flows. The S&P 500 starts tipping over, and NASDAQ, QQQ, all the big indexes, the stocks essentially. That's the main one I'm paying attention to. I don't want to see it tick up. I want to see it move down.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up. Here we go. Unemployment rate. Let's take a peek here. So, I can't go to candles on this one, and it only allows us monthly. Okay. So you can see here, guys, and unfortunately, let's see if I can go columns. Here we go. Okay. So you can see it's kind of ticked up, I guess you can say. It bottomed out right around this 3.4%. Last month, we saw the unemployment rate come in at 3.7%. What will we get this month? We also have the JOLTS, right? Job opening and labor turnover. We'll see what that's going to come in at, but it'll be interesting to see with AI and the implementation and what these companies are going to start doing. There was a report that was put out by, I forget which company it was, but they listed 5 jobs that are going to be obsolete by 2027. A lot of it was data processing, secretary style things, data entry. So we'll see what AI does to the market. We know there's still job gaps available. Will those people fill into those gaps? Will baby boomers be forced out of retirement if we go into a recession? It's something interesting to look out for. But what we do know is every market needs liquidity. And so that is why people like me, like Forrest, why we're so hinged on this spot ETF, why we're so bullish on it, and why we're looking for it just like every day, just like any news, is because that's what's going to bring mass liquidity into the market. You want high prices, that's what we're waiting for. So, Forrest, I do want to share this tweet by you. You tweeted this. The Dixie weekly chart would indicate a strong Bitcoin correction incoming, which would be out of character for this time of year historically. Can you please maybe expand on this a little bit more? And if you want to pull up your chart, obviously feel free to do so.
Sure. I'll pull up at least, I guess, my screen and pull up into the chart a little bit. The posted.
There we go.
Yeah. So if you can see my screen here, we do have we would expect historically, at least on a weekly time frame, these two things can decorrelate. DXY and Bitcoin here top, they can decorrelate on a longer term time frame, or like on a shorter term time frame rather. So you'll see times where DXY is rising, but then Bitcoin's pumping because it's in a bear market rally or something like that. But essentially, you would start to expect over a long enough time horizon, that Bitcoin would fall in line with the DXY trend. Now, the question here is DXY, and if you follow my cursor here, is DXY actually in a downtrend or actually in an uptrend? Has this trend broken, or are we going to come up here and make a lower high and actually continue this downtrend back down to, maybe 92, 95? Right now, DXY is showing absolutely no signs of slowing down. It's been pumping really, really hard. I can't find any bearish divergences or anything on pretty much any large time frames. So it does seem like DXY is really, really rallying here, and once it's above 105 or so, you can see the kind of downward pressure that it does put on a lot of risk assets, S&P 500 included. So will be really, really interesting, and it is kind of funny how these trends have largely aligned themselves with the Bitcoin 4-year market cycle, or at least we get this 4-year cycle, but the moves for Bitcoin do kind of fit into the trends for DXY. So what we want to see here, if Bitcoin is going to continue this rally that it's in, is we do want to see DXY start to top out and head back down lower, down towards 100 or below. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Forrest. And for those of you that don't know what the DXY is, the Dixie essentially measures the strength of the dollar against other currencies. So, all right. Let's move on to our market watch, and we have this for you guys to share what is going on with the top 100 cryptocurrencies. And so this is an interesting one here. File Vegas, Filecoin is here apparently from today to the 6th, and it looks like our friend Mark Yusko is here. So I reached out to him. Maybe we'll get him in studio. Hopefully, we'll see. So if you're in Vegas and you're a Filecoin fan, here you go. They're here. Valkyrie Hybrid ETF that went live today. As did a lot of other ETFs. We're going to go over that here in a little bit. Cosmos is having their Cosmoverse in Istanbul if you're in that area and you want to attend. Also, I believe not this month, but NearCon is happening in Portugal at the beginning of November. IOTA is doing an upgrade, Stardust protocol upgrade. Clayton is doing a community town hall if you're interested and want more information. And then Tezos is doing a live AMA on YouTube. So if you want to go in there and ask them, what's going on with the chain? How come we're not seeing any news of any partnerships or anything? So there you go. Also, what we like to do on Mondays is to show you what kind of tokens are going to be flooding the market. So this is one of my favorite resources I use, Token Unlocks. And so just over the next 7 days, we have around $36.8 million in tokens being unlocked. That includes leading at number 1 is Sui. Forrest, any thoughts on Sui? Have you done any research into that? I really haven't. I know they had a pretty good, pretty big, I believe it was an airdrop, but I could potentially be wrong. But any insight on Sui?
So this was another one of those VC funded chains. Not too, and I say that not too indifferent from Solana, where a lot of VCs got in early, but a lot of times what they do is they start with a very low circulating supply or a low float. They airdrop it, they pump the fully diluted valuation high, and they have their VC unlocks over time, and basically the VCs end up being able to exit at elevated prices, and then you get a chart that looks pretty ugly. Where it starts out, and then there's your district. Yeah, it's just like you don't want to touch this thing. I don't doubt that at some point it will see some sort of pump. I mean, you get something that's funded this well, and it's hard for them to not make some headway in terms of getting people to build on it, getting some TVL, getting some marketing and notoriety. So I don't doubt that at some point you'll see a pump out of it, but I just you don't want to be holding into those unlocks and just getting dumped on by VCs for the next year or so. So I tend to stay away from these types of things.
So I've isolated just pretty much the VCs and investors here, Series A, Series B, and early contributors. And you can see a vast majority starts being unlocked in July of next year. And so the token inflation right now is only 4.8% for SUI, but we can expect that to get a lot higher. And if the supply continues to grow and there's no demand to offset that supply, then we know price is either going to stay stagnant or go down. And then some of the other ones I saw here, DYDX, LQTY. I saw someone in the chat put it up there. That one looks like, let's take a look at this one. LQTY. This has got a 0.78% emission, which is not bad. And then coming down here at the vesting schedule, this is interesting. Okay. So this one looks like we're coming in at about, so we have, what is it, fully diluted is $111 million, which is not too far off from their market cap. So you got about 93% of the tokens that are already in circulation. This is not a project I know anything about, or I'm telling you guys it's a good one. I'm just looking at the token unlocks. And so, but it looks like it's going to start kind of evening out as of July of next year. And so we'll see how that works out. But this is a resource that I would definitely recommend you guys use. The website is token.unlocks.app. 1 inch Gal and NVM as far as over this week. GLMR Moonbeam, that one's getting about $682,000, which is not a lot. But the biggest one here we're seeing is a is SUI at 4% of its supply is being introduced to the market. So just keep your eye out, guys. Be careful. Keep these things in mind, even when you're swing trading. You don't want to look at a chart and see a beautiful pattern forming, and then bam, all of a sudden these tokens get dumped on the market. Now, what was interesting here, Forrest, is taking a look at Bitcoin's monthly returns. September closed in the green, which hasn't happened since 2016, and is only the third time since 2013 that September has closed green. Anything you're reading into that, or is that just just happened? It is what it is. Or do you think something else is going on? Sentiment is changing. What are your thoughts?
No, I'm personally not reading too much into it. I mean, look, it's one of the main reasons that I stayed fairly risk off, apart from some exposure to Solana in September, is because, again, September is a terrible month for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, for S&P 500 historically. Yes, September did close green for the month of September, or I'm sorry, Bitcoin did close green for the month of September, but your risk, it's not like if you were risk off, you missed out on a 15-20% pump. If you look at the historical numbers for October, and while we are kind of off to a rocky start in the S&P 500 in October, and it's only the first day, we'll see how this ends up coming out. We pumped yesterday from crypto, we're kind of pulling back today. It historically, and I know the averages get brought up in like halving and post-halving years, and we are in a pre-halving year, which is usually, the year where you kind of underperform a little bit in comparison to the bull market. But you look at the historical averages for October for Bitcoin, and you're really at risk of missing out on a big run if that average continues. I think the average for Bitcoin is around 30% in the month of October, which a lot of that average is brought up by those the bull market years. And I wouldn't say that we are in a bull market year or a halving year or post halving year. But what I would say is you probably want some crypto or Bitcoin exposure in the month of October, at least historically. Could this be another? Could we get kind of back to back, buckings of the trend where we have an outlier month? Certainly. But I'm much more comfortable being risk off in September and missing out on a 3% gain in Bitcoin than potentially missing out on a 20 or 30% pump. And this is the most bullish point in the market right now. A lot of people are talking about, kind of flipping bearish right now, talking about some bearish patterns, talking about the S&P 500, talking about unemployment, talking about all the oil prices being high, and things do look rough here, potentially for Q4. But the main thing that's keeping my hopes up for October is just that historical performance. Historically, you see a nice bounce in the S&P 500. Historically, you see 30+% returns on Bitcoin. So if we're in line with averages, you'd expect a pretty big pump here.
Bucking the trend, buck around and find out. Anyways, like Forrest mentioned, Q4 is historically a green quarter. New fiscal year has began for a lot of companies and, of course, the U.S. government. That is October 1st. And so it's interesting to see. Andy said, I thought Forrest used the F word. No, he said bucking the trend. Bucking with a B. All right. And then just one more thing to wrap up kind of the overview before we get into prices is open interest. It is up 5.7% on Bitcoin over the last 24 hours, coming in at $12.45 billion. ETH is 5.29. That is down 4% over the last 24 hours. XRP down. Solana open interest, though, is up 3.8%, coming in at $365 million. We'll get into prices here in a second, but you might be wondering, well, Bitcoin pump, why did it dump? This might be the reason why, as Jerome Powell and company had a roundtable discussion. These are some quick highlights. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker spoke to a roundtable of workers, small businesses, employers, and nonprofits, stating that the Fed's focus is on a healthy economy. Jerome Powell stated that the problems caused by the pandemic continue in the U.S. economy. So blame everyone but yourselves. Philadelphia Fed president stated that the Fed is working on price stability and maximum employment. Following the start of Powell's meeting, Bitcoin fell below 28 again. Let us take a look at where Bitcoin is at right now. We are under $28,000, coming in at 27.78. So considerable, I guess. Well, not considerable. I think the last time I saw when I opened up this morning, it was at 28.3. We're seeing a pullback. No, not bull market, Rocco. Bear market. Forrest, Bitcoin, the chart. What is it saying? What are you seeing? Also, I got a text from my buddy Brokioshi. He was mentioning a diamond pattern on the monthly. Maybe if you can also kind of take a peek at that towards the back end. But what are we seeing on Bitcoin? Why do we see a drawdown? When the hell are we going to break out over 30K again, bro? What's going on?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'll zoom out so people can kind of orient themselves with the overall Bitcoin chart. We're seeing this 21-week simple moving average. We saw this kind of hold as support multiple times. We lost it and then reclaimed it pretty quickly, and now we lost it. We didn't get a full retest, and now we're kind of retesting it right now. So, if we zoom in here to maybe the 4 hour, what we saw was we broke through the 21-week simple moving average. And that is actually, was a really, really nice sign. But what we want to actually see is we want to see holding above it. We want to see holding above the 21-week simple moving average. And here in the last hour or so with this correction, we've actually lost this 21-week simple moving average. We're now trading below it. Average is sitting around 27.8. We're at 27.7. We're at a pretty key level. It's our 3-to-1 risk reward level. We want to see some candles, hold above this level. Unfortunately, with a lot of these pumps, what you'll frequently see, at least lately, is the dreaded full retracement. So you get that full retracement. So we'll clean that up a little bit. What we're worried about here is, the full retracement back down to Bitcoin, around 27.2. right? And hopefully we do, end up seeing a hold of this trend line. You can get a big pump and then just continue the trend. That can be pretty bullish. But we want to see this zone of, what is, kind of hopefully turning into support, prior resistance. We want to see this turn into support. We want to see Bitcoin hang out here around its 21-week simple moving average and then push back up to 28.9 or even 29.3. Otherwise, it does look a little bit rough here. This could be what is known as a clearance pump in your trend line. So you're coming along your trend, right? You pump a little bit, and then you get a big, huge pump that clears all the liquidity out, and then a lot of times after that clearance pump, you do get a rejection or a breakthrough of the trend line. So if anybody's looking for a short setup for Bitcoin, I do think that is a decent one where we potentially kind of draw that out a little bit again, where you kind of have your trend line there, your 21-week simple moving average coming through here with all of this prior resistance, pump above it, your deviation, you break down below your trend line. That's your indication that you broken trend, and then you short the back test, right? If that holds as resistance, flips into resistance, that's where you potentially look for your short setup around where we're at right now. But we want to actually make Bitcoin prove that it wants to go down before just jumping into a short, especially when we are in a kind of shorter term uptrend here. We've made a nice series of, we made a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high. We took out this, right? The trend is still intact. It's still moving upwards. We just want to see it hold up here, come back down and start pushing up again. Otherwise, we could certainly see a reversal. You mentioned the diamond pattern. I'll go out to maybe I'll get rid of the moving average. Maybe I'll go to a clean chart here to kind of show this. I've actually already got it drawn out here. I'm not a big patterns person, but I believe somebody was texting you about a diamond pattern. I believe this is probably what they are looking at. That is, from my research, a bearish, reversal pattern. You'd expect something like that. Wouldn't surprise me. It definitely does go against the trend of a bullish Q4, but maybe we don't put in a bullish Q4 for the S&P 500 either. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and I've said this. Look, yeah, the trend is that Q4 is going to be, it's usually a good quarter for risk assets. But there are plenty of things that you can point at in the economy right now that are not healthy. And seeing a large pullback across the board in risk assets shouldn't be too surprising. It really shouldn't be. So this is what makes this particular market so difficult, and what I believe is a big reason why we're seeing so much choppy price action. Every time Bitcoin goes up, it's kind of like, at the end of the day, a lot of people view Bitcoin as a risk asset, and it trades like a risk asset. It trades with some decent correlation to a lot of other risk assets. And you want to be in risk assets if we're going to see a large recession. And the question is that everyone's asking is, are we going to see a large recession? Are we going to see a huge pullback, or are we going to get a soft landing? And it's been a very difficult kind of multivariate problem to try to solve for. But yeah, this would, if you're into patterns, I'm not a big patterns person, but if you are into patterns and you pay attention to this potential pattern, if we start falling out of the bottom of it, maybe look for some hedging opportunities. But yeah, I tend to personally stick with more just kind of the horizontal levels, the range that we're in. I think as long as we are in this range, we are okay. What we don't want to see is break back below 25K.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Forrest. Taking a look at the rest of the top 10, and then we'll get into the crypto bubbles. Ethereum did rally up to over 1,700. Of course, ETH futures trading went live today, but it is back down 1.74% over the last 1 hour alone. The biggest loser in that time frame in the top 10. Speaking of top 10, BNB, XRP, Solana. Oh, Solana surpassed Cardano. Damn. Solana is pumping up 20% over the last 7 days, up 3% on the daily, but down 3%. I lied. So Ethereum is not the biggest loser on the hourly. It is Solana. They are down 3%. Forrest, real quick, is this a healthy pullback after seeing a massive rally, or what does the structure say on the Solana chart?
Yeah, let's take a peek. Solana chart's very interesting, and we actually talked this morning on my live stream about how this was very likely to pull back. Now my positions are kind of longer term. I think $24 was a great level to if for anybody that was in a shorter term trade or wanting to take some risk off. There you just have so much resistance up here. You see this resistance got tagged, right? And we pushed up and we distributed up into this resistance around $24. If we zoom in kind of a little bit here, you can see the head and shoulders we talked about kind of earlier. We ended up losing this level. Once we lost that level, it became pretty clear, in my opinion, that we were going to get a pretty large. I wouldn't say large. I mean, this hourly candle, from its high here, recent high, 6-7% pullback. So yeah, I mean, you start to, you see an aggressive trend up like this. This looks to be, the beginning of a correction. So if you are somebody who just, felt really uncomfortable watching, Solana rip upwards, and you felt like you were missing out, or you feel like you want to, you want to get a Solana position, there's a really strong chance, in my opinion, that this does pull back, and it could pull back quite a bit. I'm personally not of the opinion that we couldn't see, a pullback to some of these lows. I'm not against the idea that, again, we get a bad Q4, a bad Q1, and you could get some opportunities to pick up altcoins really cheap. But if you're just kind of looking at the general trend line where we've got, pretty strong levels of support, if you wanted to wait for a pullback, you could, start DCAing in or look for an entry somewhere around this $19 to $20 region, which has been really strong support in the past. We've got a ton of margin pressure level confluence there. And this would be kind of a full retrace of this move, but it would be back down to our trend line, back into our strong support, and could be another level to catch a bounce off of it before we move higher. So I don't think there's any reason to FOMO in. I don't think you should panic. I'm not saying that we are going back to $19 to $20, but it'd be a completely realistic kind of pullback and place to bounce from if we do.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And finally, the bubbles. What are the bubbles saying? Are they popping? No, they're not. Well, some of them might. Bitcoin Satoshi Vision is up 22%. Rollbit up 11.6%. There's a few other ones, and everything else is pretty much red. MakerDAO down 8.8%. FracShares down 6.6%. Lido down 5%. If we zoom out or zoom into the hourly, everything is red, with, again, Lido, Solana, and it looks like ApeCoin all over -3% on the last hour, and then zooming out to the week. A lot more green. Zooming out to the month, a lot more green. And zooming out to the year, Caspa's up, 2,000% on Caspa. Whoa. Rocco, can we get a bow bow? Oh, we don't have the bow bow bow, do we? Jackpot, baby. Guys, if you've been in Caspa for a year, you're looking real pretty right now. That's what is that, a 20x? A 20x. A 20x for Caspa. So big shout out to all of you that enjoyed some green gains in your Caspa portfolios. Moving on from that to some news. Again, we did mention Ethereum futures went live. This is from Eric Balchunas, the senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg. Pretty meh volume for the Ethers futures ETF as a group, a little under 2 million. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, where's the interest? What's going on? Bitcoin's brought in this much. Guys, keep in mind, it's pretty normal for a new ETF. But he also goes on to say, but versus a BITO, which did 200 million in the first 15 minutes, it is low. But you got to remember, that was the Bitcoin futures ETF launched at the height of a bull market. So more liquidity was there, more craze was there, people were more willing. And this is how the breakdown is for ETH futures. You have VanEck, $305,000 traded. ProShares, 284, 245. And so when you add all these up, it comes to about $2 million. And so, Forrest, what are your thoughts on ETH futures ETF? And then just to kind of tie this whole thing in, we did have this piece of news from Grayscale. Grayscale files to convert another major trust into ETF. Grayscale has now moved to convert its Grayscale Ethereum trust into a spot Ethereum ETF. So my thinking on what Grayscale is doing is they're looking at their victory in court against the SEC, where the judge said, you approve the futures, why would you not approve a spot? And so I'm thinking that's kind of Grayscale's trying to get ahead of the game. What are your thoughts on the ETH futures? Do you have anything? Do you think it's good? Is it bad? I mean, we know it's not really have a lot of volume or doesn't affect price because on futures ETFs, you don't have to go out and buy the underlying asset. But is the recognition and ETH futures ETF, people seeing that available to trade in their traditional portfolios, do you think that's enough of a positive, or do you think it's just a no big deal to you?
I think it's no big deal. I think what is the bigger deal is the fact that from a regulatory standpoint that these Ethereum futures ETFs were approved. So the actual trading of them themselves and the volume that we're seeing, I don't think that makes that big of a difference. But it gives us a greater chance of seeing an Ethereum spot ETF, which would need to be backed by actual ETH, and that would make that would be of significant impact. So between those two things, I think just what we really need to look forward to are spot ETFs for Bitcoin, spot ETF for Bitcoin, and spot ETF for Ethereum. The futures ETF, I just don't think it makes that big of a deal. You just don't see that much volume. They're not super efficient. They have to be rolled over. They're just not very attractive. Like if you're really wanting exposure to Ethereum, you're just better off buying. And I know, there's certain advantages to being able to trade an ETF for legacy finance. But if you really want exposure to Ethereum, you're just, from the amount of fees that you pay and like the efficiency of the exposure, you're just so much better off buying Ethereum straight up. So yeah, I mean, we really just need to look forward to the spot ETFs. That's what will make a bigger difference. And we want to be in a situation where not only do we get those spot ETFs live and approved, but we also want to see a healthy economy because or you want to see the asset managers push Bitcoin and Ethereum as like a hedge against recession or something like that. But ultimately, you still want to see those strong structural, confident inflows from high employment, right? From people having money to invest in the stock market, people having money to invest in risk assets, right? And they can do that through a spot ETF. That's ultimately what I believe is going to push us into the next bull market.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that we're going to see a spot Bitcoin ETF before we see a spot Ethereum ETF. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. It'll be interesting, but I do think both will happen eventually. It'll be interesting to see when a spot Bitcoin ETF goes live versus a spot Ethereum ETF, because we know the dynamic of proof of work versus proof of stake, sell pressure from miners, no sell pressure from miners, lower inflation rate. Bitcoin versus Ethereum at certain points has been actually deflationary. So it'll be interesting to see if the same amount of hype and liquidity will move into Ethereum, what that'll cost to the price versus what will happen to Bitcoin when it eventually gets a spot ETF approved. Now, one project that I haven't been able to shut my freaking mouth about, and for a good reason, is Chainlink. They secure another massive partnership. Man, Chainlink is going to melt faces, bro. It is going to melt faces. Chainlink secures partnership with $670 billion bank. As founder Sergey Nazarov says, Swift project going very well. The decentralized Oracle service Chainlink is teaming up with lending giant Australia and New Zealand banking group, also known as ANZ. ANZ participated in a case study involving the Oracle's new cross-chain interoperability protocol technology, CCIP. You're going to hear that a lot. And I've said it, this is game-changing. And so we're going to keep reporting on it because, obviously people are adopting it. The case study reportedly demonstrated that ANZ-issued stablecoins could be transferred cross-chain via CCIP to purchase nature-based assets. This is a quote in a paper released by Chainlink. The case study presented in the paper demonstrates that financial institutions can provide clients with secure access to a wide range of tokenized assets and digital asset services, even across different public and private blockchains. Interesting. Public and private blockchains. This can vastly simplify the user experience of interacting with digital assets while providing financial institutions with a way to serve client demand without substantial modifications to their existing infrastructure. I was watching, and I'm going to pause there real quick. I was watching a documentary on Boeing and what happened with their 737 MAX airplanes. And the one thing I kept hearing was anytime these large aircraft manufacturers, Boeing, Airbus, they want to create or upgrade their fleet, they want to keep the pilot training as minimal as possible. If they can roll out a new version of a plane and not have to send the pilots back into the simulator for training, it saves the companies a lot of money, and people are more receptive to spend the money and buy those airplanes. Going back to this, without substantial modifications to their existing infrastructure. So it's much easier to pitch someone, hey, use this protocol. You don't really have to make any big changes versus, hey, uproot your entire system and your infrastructure and come work on our blockchain. And then going on, they continue to say, similar to how interoperability standards transform the internet and global banking, a cross-chain interoperability standard could accelerate the adoption of tokenized assets amongst financial institutions. And also in June, Swift announced it was testing blockchain interoperability with over a dozen financial institutions on the Chainlink network. We've talked about Quant, Cosmos, Polkadot, essentially connecting all blockchains. Is it going to be Chainlink? Is Chainlink going to be the one to connect not only Web3 and blockchains, but also connect traditional financial institutions, traditional payment rails, and kind of intertwine and interconnect everything together so we have one fluid monetary system? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty solid chance of it, especially when you're bringing on pretty large partners like that. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a little while now that the perfect portfolio to me, we do that portfolio ranking section, but section every now and then. But for me, the perfect portfolio is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, and Chainlink. I think those are the four that cover most of your bases. I don't think people need to be spread across 15 to 20 different coins and like 9 different sectors of the crypto space. Yeah, I mean, Chainlink is a very, very solid project. You do have a little bit of overhang in terms of the amount of tokens that Chainlink does own, and they do sell those from time to time to cover expenses, of which they have got over 200 employees, which is it's an expense, but it's also a good thing. So yeah, I mean, Chainlink is a top 4 coin for me. It is if not probably a top 2 coin. Not in terms of like market cap. I'm not saying it's going to go to the top 2 cryptocurrencies by market cap, but in terms of attractiveness to one's portfolio, Chainlink all the way.
Yeah, and as Forrest mentioned, we only have about 55% of their total supply that's currently circulating, so we should expect some sell pressure. But Forrest, let me ask you this question. For those people who invest based off sectors, right? Like I want to allocate 20% of my portfolio to the gaming sector, to the NFT sector. Can people now look at Chainlink as more than just Oracle price data and add Chainlink into their interoperability layer 1 basket of investments that they might want to have exposure to?
Yeah, I think you could really classify you could classify Chainlink as maybe interoperability now, but you could also just classify it as infrastructure or as an Oracle network. I mean, it's kind of all of those things. Yeah, I mean, then with its stake program, because it's going to be rewarding stakers with tokens from various projects that are in their build program, you kind of get a basket of low caps or potentially low to mid caps as well. So Chainlink is just it's attractive almost as like an index for all of crypto's growth because it is interoperable across multiple blockchains and provides that solution, but also because it does provide or will provide those kind of low cap token yield rewards. I just think it's going to be a staple for any portfolio, and I just don't see it performing horribly poorly in the event of a bull market. I think in a bull market, it's going to be a top performer. It might not be a 100xer because it is a large market cap, but it's also you're taking on a lot less risk than you would with something that could potentially 100x.
But Forrest,
yeah, I think it's a go ahead.
But let me push back on you here, okay? You're saying you don't think it's a 100xer because it has a high market cap, but if it's literally connecting all blockchains and it's also providing price data and it's also securing networks, why can't it? Why is that such it can't 100x? What if crypto's at $6-7 trillion? You don't think Chainlink can garner 200 billion, 250 billion if it is the hub that is connecting not only crypto projects and layer 1s, but also from the traditional financial system as well?
I mean, yeah, 100x. That's you're talking about $700 to $800 Chainlink. You're talking about a fully diluted valuation I'll get this pulled up here. Yeah, it's at a fully diluted valuation of 7.5 billion. So you're talking about a 750. You're talking about almost a trillion. Three-quarters of $1 trillion asset. That's 200 billion greater than Bitcoin right now. To me, sure, in a long enough time frame, if Chainlink is the glue that holds the crypto space together, so sure, it's absolutely possible. But I'm not sure a lot of people are investing on that long of a time horizon. I think it could take 4 or 5, maybe even 2 cycles to get there, maybe even 8 years to get there. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe we do see $800 Chainlink this market cycle. But for me personally, I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled to have Chainlink in as a staple of my portfolio. I'd be thrilled with a 10 to 20x. I really would. And that's not me being bearish by any means on Chainlink. I just think 100x on a large market cap token is possible, but you're going to have to really hold through to realize 100x on something. You really have to hold through quite a lot of drawdowns, and I try my best not to hold through those drawdowns. I just to get to 100x without seeing a 40-50% drawdown at some point, or even a long-term bear market, I think is going to be difficult. So I think, targeting for this market cycle, a 10, 20, 30x would be more prudent. And then you take profits, then you can buy it back cheaper in a bear market. And then maybe in the next bull market, it is 100x from where it's at right now. I just think 750 billion in the next 2 years is going to be a tall order, but I could be wrong on that. I really could. I'm open to that idea.
For me, I look at it as, we know you always say it does well in bear markets because it is actually infrastructure that is necessary, right? Which is the Oracle service. Then you look at, okay, we're in a crypto bear market, but if Chainlink is connecting traditional financial systems and payments, it's coming to a point where no matter what speculation is happening on the price, Chainlink is going to be used. No matter if the markets are bad, no matter if the S&P is down, if value is moving and Chainlink is part of it, it's going to sustain its value, right? People have to pay gas fees. And the way they're setting it up with CCIP, and there was a picture, I don't have it, but it shows all the native assets of the other chains going into a water spout, and then it comes out the link token. And so the only thing, and if Chainlink Labs, Sergey Nazarov, if you're watching this, you guys literally have the opportunity of a lifetime. Please don't do anything to mess it up, please, because we're counting on you. All right. Want to give a couple more shout outs. Cam's Blue Wire Technology. Big shout out to them. Today's 4K stream is brought to you by Cam's Blue Wire Tech. If you want to learn more, visit bluewiretech.com. Also, big thank you to Radix for sponsoring this show as well. They're one of our bigger sponsors, so we appreciate them. We appreciate all of our sponsors for helping keep things going, keeping the lights on. If you want to learn more about Radix, visit their website. Also, Forest. If people want more Forest, more cysteine, where can they find you?
At Cysteine Research on Twitter, cysteine.ai for the website, and Cysteine Research as the YouTube channel as well. So that's Cysteine, like the Sistine Chapel, Cysteine Research. It's spelled out below, somewhere below my chin here. But yeah. We do research, we do live streams, put out charts on Twitter and stuff. We have a very active Discord, both for trading and investing. And we're just, we're going to be here for the long haul. This is what I do every single day. It's what I've done every single day for years now. So
amen to that.
I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. But yeah, that's
we also have the link to Force YouTube pinned in the comments of this live chat. So make sure to go check that out. And with that being said, we are going to give Forrest a day off tomorrow. So we got Lifer joining us to co-host. Then we'll have Forrest back Wednesday. Then we'll give Forrest another day off on Thursday. And then we'll have Lifer, and then we'll Forrest back on Friday. And so we miss Rob. He's doing well. But as soon as he's ready, he'll join us. But until then, we will continue to hold down the fort. But with that being said, Rocco. Guys, thank you so much for starting your week with us here at Sin City Crypto. We hope you got some great insight and knowledge. Big thank you again to Forrest. Big thank you to all of you for watching. On behalf of all of us here, we love you. Till tomorrow. Peace.
crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin, it's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.